How's everyone doing? We need high energy. How's everyone doing? Okay, so this is gonna be an awesome discussion. Here's why, okay? All three of these ladies are powerhouses. They are moguls in the making. I'm so glad that you guys are all here. It's about to be a dope conversation. If you record anything, please hashtag MOYV, Power Brunch 18, or moving on your visions. Sound good? Yeah. Sound good? Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to be the one projecting because we only have one mic, and you ladies can go back and forth with the microphone. Feel free to overlap each other. It's totally fine. Be authentic. It's going to be great. Okay? So first we're going to start off with introductions. The first question is what it is that you do.
Hi, everyone. Hi. So my name is Chelsea Miller. I am the co-founder and CEO of WEBelieve, which is a national organization and movement focused on training women and girls of color to be leaders, and we are currently across 8 states and 20+ universities. I am also an Obama White House alum. I worked in the White House during the Obama administration on domestic policy, on criminal justice reform, and urban economic opportunity. So excited to be here with all of you.
What's up, guys? So my name is Krystal Vega. I'm actually a host for BET. Aside of that, I am the co-founder of Fortune & Forks, which is a dinner series for young women. And we do a series for women in like different lanes. So we're looking to do a one for women in tech, and previously we did one for women in fashion, and so on and so forth. I'm also the founder of my own interview segment where I interview like a lot of hip hop artists who are coming up in New York City. That's called Kicking It with Krystal Vega, unless you guys want to follow me on YouTube. And yeah, other than that, just a host.
So hello everyone, I'm Asia Milia. I'm a fashion writer, also a blogger. I started in 2015 working with Essence Magazine as a college ambassador when I was at Hampton University. And from then I interned with Hot 97 a few years ago. I've interned with New York Fashion Week. Most recently I was working with InStyle. I just left them in October. I work with Fashion Mom Daily, and I also own my own website where I blog on fashion, fitness, everything lifestyle, and yeah, I'm excited to be with you ladies today.
Give it up for the panelists, guys. Awesome. All right, so let's hold it, and then you can figure out the answer first. Yeah. So let's get to the nitty gritty. What is your vision? Dun dun dun.
Yeah, think.
I'll take it. Okay, so that's a loaded question. I know. And that's the first question. But, so I know that this is going to be a deep panel. So for me, I would definitely say my vision, and this ties into my organization, and that's a vision of a day when all women will believe in their power to change the world. So I grew up in Brooklyn, New York. I'm first generation American. For anyone whose family is from the Caribbean or just first generation in general, my family's from Jamaica. And so when you see your family struggle, right, you always want to make sure that that's not in vain. And so you're constantly trying to challenge yourself to think of new ways, right, to create possibilities. And it gets to a point where you realize that it's not just enough for you to be in these spaces, but how do you make sure that other women of color, how do you make sure that other people who have gone through these same struggles can also be in those spaces? And so for me, it's not about being the exception, it's about trying to create the new normal, right? And so the national organization that I founded is a way to do that, but there's always new ways to do that. And so when I think of my vision, how we can create a better future for women and girls of color, specifically when you're taking into account generational trauma, sexual violence, racism, institutional racism, all these things that ultimately serve as a way to hinder, right, a lot of our potential. For me, it's figuring out how do we get past that, right, and how do we create new stories of liberation and self-love and acceptance, and what does that look like?
Well, how do I follow that up? For me, I have to say that I'm still figuring it out, and I think that is okay to do, because in a society or in a time where we live now, where we are, so involved in social media and we're looking at what other people do, we feel so much pressure to figure it out in your 20s, and I'm like, hold on, like I just turned 21, like I just passed 18, like I'm still trying to figure out what my whole vision is. Granted, I have like goals within my career, so like if we're talking about my dinner series, Fortune and Forks, like of course I have a vision for that. Like if we're talking about like my interview segment, I have a vision for that as well. Like I have end goals there, but if we're talking like the bigger picture for me, I feel like that's something that I'm still very much figuring it out, and I'm writing different chapters of my life within everything that I do, like between the dinner series, my career, and what I do aside from that. So I feel like once I meet those goals in those areas, I will have a better idea of exactly what my vision is, or at least my vision will be there on its own. Yeah. But I just think it's important to say that it's okay, like you're still figuring it out, and I finally have come to terms with the fact that I don't have it there yet, but little by little, I'm working on it.
I think my vision overall is to represent, because a lot of times, like I love being in rooms like this where I'm surrounded by women of color, because 9 times out of 10, the rooms I'm in the fashion industry, I'm like one of 5, not even women, people of color. So to represent means so much, because we have to be in these rooms, because we have to be, like media controls so much. It controls so much. So to just be the one like, no, you know, well, where's the person of color, or where's the person that's not a size 2 on that runway? That to me means so much. So I think my overall vision from with my blogs, just working in the industry, is to represent, because we need to be at these tables.
So we are all here to prepare for our 2019 and beyond, right? We're all here to hopefully get focused, hone in on what it is that we love to do. But sometimes we don't really know where to get started, how to get started. So for you ladies, describe the steps that you've taken thus far to accomplish your vision. What does that look like for you? Or what has it looked like for you?
Well, for me, starting to prepare for any year doesn't start on January 1st. I always say that. If you wait until January 1st, you waited too late. Like, the time is now to start. You're in December, even back in November, I was like, okay, what do I need to accomplish for 2019? Like, I need to write it down. I need to set a plan, because everybody waits until January 1st. And it's like, realistically, it's a day. You know what I'm saying? So I think my number one thing is always to write everything down. I write my goals down, and I'm thorough. I'm very thorough. Like, I'm going to get this. Like, I did it last November of 2017. I wrote down all my goals for 2018, and whenever I accomplished it, I went and checked it off. And to me, that feels so much better than just saying what you're going to do. When you write it down, you put your pen to your paper, and you start prior to that new year. To me, that's the best way to plan and prep for the year ahead.
Yeah, I'm also really big on to-do lists. When I write down my goals, though, I try not to be broad with it, because if you're broad with it, you never really know where to start. So I'm also like a very backwards person. I will start from my goal, and then I'm like, okay, so what do I have to do to get here? Before I get here, I have to do this, and so on and so forth. So I'm the kind of person, I will never do it if I don't write it down. So I write down literally every step from A to Z to get to the goal, and so on and so forth. So literally, like, write it down, like she said.
Agreed. And just to add on that, I think that it's not enough to just have like a year goal, right? So in the sense of what's happening in 2019, but also like come up with a strategy for like what's your 5-year plan? What does that look like? Because ultimately you can build, right, whatever blueprint you need to build to take into consideration the fact that like this is short term, but ultimately you have that long-term vision in mind, which can help you kind of backtrack what Krystal was saying.
Right. Okay, so we talked about who you are, what your vision is or what it's going to be, some of the ways that can get you to that vision, right? So now looking back on what it is that you've done so far, what are the challenges that you have learned from the most that you think the audience will be able to keep in mind as they accomplish their own vision?
I know there's plenty.
Yeah, I was
But the one that I know there's plenty. But the one that you have learned from like the most, or the one that comes into your mind that speaks to you.
Consistency and trust in yourself. I'm terrible. Like, I will go to the gym 30 days and then I'll stop going to the gym. Like, you have to be consistent in whatever you do, especially if you're trying to build a brand, because people won't understand what you're doing if you're not being consistent, and they won't be able to grasp it, and then you also kind of just look like a very flip-floppy person who wants to do this one day and who just doesn't stick to it. And also believing in yourself, because I just went freelance this summer, which I'm super excited about. But girl, it is hard, let me tell you. Waiting on a check to come in, and it's not like consistent Monday through Friday. It's hard, but for me, I felt like it's something that I had to do to teach myself self-discipline and, you know, a bunch of other lessons. But just literally believing in yourself and what was that again? Consistency. There you go. Consistency and believing in yourself.
So like these ladies, plenty of challenges. My top two: one, believing in myself, same, and also the power of letting go. Like, I can't speak enough to how much letting go shows you your power. I think this year, especially with like leaving InStyle, I was with InStyle for over a year, and it was like, that's where I was comfortable. And once I finally was like, you know, I've gotten all I could get out of this, I've grown, there's no more growth, I'm just gonna take that leap of faith. It showed me how much power I really had. But that was one of the most challenging things I've ever had to do in my life, to say like, listen, this is gonna be my last day, like, and dealing with the, why are you doing that, with like, just not listening to anybody else and just letting go really taught me my power. And I'm still learning how to let go in every aspect of life, relationships, friendships, jobs, like in everything. Once you learn your power in letting go, I think you can really soar to different heights. And also believing in myself, it's just like, it's a hard thing. It's so hard, and everybody's like, it's hard when everybody sees something in you before you see it in yourself. And I deal with that a lot. Like my closest friends, even people on social media, like, oh my God, Asia, you're X, Y, and Z. But it's so hard for me to see that in myself, and still, it's a daily challenge. But I feel like when you truly learn and deeply learn how to believe in yourself, like you're not competing with anybody but you, and that's something I'm still dealing with, a challenge I'm still dealing with. But yeah, those would be my top two.
So, adding on that, I would say bet on yourself. So not even just believing in yourself, but also betting on yourself. So there's going to be times where you are going to have to be the only one that believes in your vision, right? There's going to be those times where it's just you, like hustling, trying to get other people to see what that picture looks like, but you shouldn't be discouraged by that, because I would say that everyone has that period in which you have to put in that work. Right? And sometimes you put in that work for a longer time than other people, but at the same time, you shouldn't be comparing yourself to other people to begin with. And so the second thing would be take a risk. Whew, there's so many times you just gotta shoot your shot. And it's like, you don't know if it's gonna land, but you just do it anyway and see what happens. And what I'm learning now is that the worst people can say is no. You know, but you don't know those opportunities that you're missing out on if you don't show up, if you don't be present, if you don't send those cold emails, if you don't figure out a way to make sure that you're creating those platforms that you need to make sure that you're getting your vision, whatever it looks like, done. And so those are my top two.
Yeah. And if you don't start either, I feel like sometimes, I know I'm a moderator, but 1 second. Sometimes the hardest part is starting. Like I work with a lot of creatives who are entertainment, lifestyle, and beauty brands, and they come to me and they're like, I have all these great ideas, and I'm like, well, did you write it down? What have you done? So just get it going. Because if you don't take risk, you won't know what you need to change moving forward. Okay? How am I doing on time? I'm okay? Good. Okay. All right. So.
Can I just add to that?
Yeah. Go ahead.
This is really important. Don't be afraid to pivot. Okay. I don't like the word failure. I don't believe in failure. I think everything's a lesson. But also, like Asia was saying, don't hold on to things if it's time to let it go. Right. And so always be open to it taking that new door, or like being uncomfortable, right, and learning how to be comfortable within that space. So for me, I was even telling Asia about this a couple of minutes ago. I have a clothing line that's coming out in March of 2019. And so I was talking about it for the longest. I was going to events and like different like fashion stuff, and I was like, yeah, like I have a clothing line. And then finally my friends held me accountable and was like, okay, Chelsea, you've been talking about this clothing line forever. When is it releasing? We've been waiting on it. And I was like, damn, that's true. And so I started hustling, right? Found a brand assistant, been like getting it together. And so I say all that to say is that I initially was in civic engagement, nonprofit work, doing a lot of social justice movements, all of that. And then now going into the fashion industry is completely new and different. And so I had to learn how to pivot, right, and try something new. And I'm like, if it works out, then amazing. And if not, there's always new opportunities out there.
Right, right.
Can I have to?
Yeah, go ahead.
Two things. I want to go over shooting your shot and starting. Don't be afraid to just start something, because whatever you do is going to be a work in progress. Your website is not going to look poppin' when you first launch it. It's like nothing you do is going to be perfect, and for me that's something. When I first started, I was like, oh, I need this, and like I need an app, and I needed all these things in my head, but in reality, like, no one, now when people talk about my brand or whatever it is that they see that I'm building, they don't remember how busted my website looked when I first started. They don't remember how, besides my friends who joke about this, but they don't remember that I was on like SoundCloud and like interviewing like out of a closet. Like, people don't remember that stuff. They only like remember what you did like a month ago, 2 months ago. So like, don't be afraid to start it, because whatever you do is going to be a work in progress regardless. Now, in regards to shooting your shot, something that I had to learn is, yes, definitely shoot your shot, send those cold emails, but make it make sense. Right. Do not reach out to people to connect with you or to build with you or to, to whatever it is with you if it doesn't make sense for them either. You have to be aware that everybody is trying to build and move forward. So if somebody is, or if the company you're reaching out to doesn't have the same vision as you, and like this is you and this is them, like you guys are on two different lanes, if it doesn't make sense, don't waste your time. Shoot your shot in places that will actually potentially work for you. Just make it make sense. And don't be offended when you don't hear back. Like, I still shoot my shot via email and I don't get, I don't get responses a lot of the time, but when I do get a response, it's because it made sense for that brand as well.
Right. Yeah. Are you guys getting these gems? Are you paying attention? Okay. All right, so we have one more question and then we're gonna open the floor up to Q&As, okay? So, on your journey, there's adversity, right? Like, that's a given. How do you stay motivated? And adversity, I see adversity on a spectrum. I see it emotionally, physically, mentally. So you guys can address the how do you stay motivated from any of those perspectives.
I mean, it's different. I don't know. Like, I don't stay motivated 365 days a year. Like, let's be very honest. There's moments like this where people are like, "Oh, come speak on a panel," and I'm like, "Oh shit, I hear that." Like, that motivates me. I'm like, okay, cool. Like, somebody's watching, somebody's paying attention, because there's a lot of times where I'm working so hard, and like times that I've cried over my laptop because my video is like failing to export, where I'm like, who's even paying attention to this? So like moments like this for me is very motivating. Also, my family, like or remembering why you started, most importantly. Even if you have to sit down and look at your to-do list that you wrote back at the top of the year or whenever you feel like writing it, just refreshing your memory, but also understand, like, you're human. 365 days of motivation is not real. But as long as you remind yourself you have to go back and find it, that's all that's important.
So, I agree with that on so many different levels. There are times where, I'm not even gonna lie, like a week of just not being productive, right? And that's followed by months, right, of just like exhaustion. And so what does that look like when you take into consideration your mental and physical health? And there's just some times where like you just don't want to do anything, right? And you have to prioritize that and understand that that's okay. And so right now, for instance, I'm in the middle of this huge summit that we're planning coming up in January of my organization. And I'm like, after that, I'm going on vacation. Y'all not come see me. Like, I'm not answering emails for a week. Like, so you need that time. And so for me, I would also say prayer. I'm very big on faith, and I think that a lot of times, at least what I've seen in my own life, is that if I stray away from that, or if I get to a point where I'm no longer like building and focused on my relationship with God, that it causes a toll in other places, you know. And so that's something that grounds me. And I don't go to church often, I'm not gonna lie, I've done a terrible job of that. But just like really working on that relationship is really important to me. And then going back to family is so important. I'm one of 6. I have 4 other sisters. One of my sisters actually here with me today. And so, you know, you don't play about your family. And so that's like another stressor, if you will, that you have to take into consideration. Because what I tell my sisters, just my family in general, and friends as well, is that you can be so focused on success that you kind of have this blind tunnel vision that you don't focus on what else is going on around you. And that is something that you just cannot do. And so there are times where you have to put something to the side to focus on other things that are important. Because success is not the end all be all of your life. There's other things that go into that. And so just understanding that's okay too if you're at a time in your life where there's other things that you need to focus on.
So, like Krystal said, being motivated 365 days a year is literally impossible. And I think social media creates this image of like being motivated every day and waking up with a smile every day.
Monday.
Yes, like Monday motivation. Yeah, you know how many Mondays I wake up and be like, I'm not doing nothing today. Like, I'm sorry, I'm just not feeling it. Like, straight like that. Like, the whole week, I'm just not feeling it. And sometimes I wake up on a Saturday and that'll be the day I'm motivated. But don't get caught up in that social media image of always having to be on, because people show you their ups. Nobody shows you the day they wake up and they don't feel like getting up out of bed, or, you know, they had a rough night sleeping, so that day, like nobody shows you that. So I think that's big for me. But what helps me stay motivated is keeping a circle, like my circle keeps me motivated. I have a tight circle of friends that hold me accountable for everything, like every single thing. And to be honest, there's days that I'm motivated that they're not, or there's days that they're motivated that I'm not. And I'm like, you know what, I respect that, I'll give you your space, but they'll come around and be like, sis, you need to do X, Y, and Z. And to me, like, just having that circle, having people around you who want to see you win is like everything, because there'll be people around you who are quietly hating on you, and that energy is not going to help you prosper.
That part.
So yeah. So I'm very big on keeping a tight circle. Again, family, like younger people in my family. I have my niece, my little cousin. Like even yesterday, my mom, I wrote it on Twitter. It was the cutest thing. My mom gave my niece $100 to go shopping for her 10th birthday. And she was like, it's to go shopping. We're going to the mall. And she was like, but I want to use it for my college fund so I can go like auntie. And she's like, I want to be a designer. And I'm like, so funny. But I'm like, that, like things like that keep me motivated. Like I have to keep going. Like, on the days that I really don't want to go, the events that I really don't want to go to, I'm like, I have people looking, not even just family, like just other people looking up to me. So if I stop, I don't know, you know, who that makes want to be like, well, you know, if Asia gave up, like I'm about to give up too. So I think that's what really helps me stay motivated. But it's not a 365 days thing. Like it'll be sometimes I'm motivated like one day out of the week, and that one day I get a lot done, but nobody knows. On them other 6 days, I was like, shh, please.
I'll try again tomorrow.
Exactly.
Awesome. Let's give these girls a round of applause. All right, so we only have time for 2 really good questions. So who has questions? Anybody? We only have time for 2. Anybody? Yes.
It came to me now, I forgot what I said, but what's that? What you said? Shot? Something? Yeah, shot. What do you mean by that? Because like I'm coming up with some things that I have designed and stuff like that, so I need that piece of information to add on to what I don't know.
Basically, like taking an opportunity, and you know, just taking a leap of faith, and going into something like very blind.
Like taking a risk on something.
Yeah, taking a risk on something.
Well, I did many of those.
Okay.
But I'm talking about I'm talking about, well, like, I'm venturing into something new, like designing T-shirts. I'm a book writer and stuff like that. But to get what I have in my head, I have it, I see it now. But how do I like I don't know the language. You know what I'm saying? I don't know the language, and like I did my ideas, not like it's not in my head, you actually see it. And then to go off into, because I'm very blind going into that designer fashion area, like distributors and stuff like that.
I would say just know your demographic, because you might not need to know the language depending who your age range is, or who you're trying to target and like what age range it is. If it's a younger age range or something like that, you have to surround yourself by those people, so you can understand, like, shoot your shot, you know, so on and so forth. But understanding your demographic. I also have a jewelry line, and for me, this is something that I just learned as well. Knowing your demographic can go into, or it can affect how much you sell, like a lot. So just know your demographic.
And also, I would say you don't have to know everything, right? I think that a lot of times we hold ourselves back under the impression that we're waiting on this time where we'll be able to be a better version than we are now. It's like you are all that you need right now to do what you need to do, right? And so if there are gaps in what you need to know, figure out someone who can help you with that, right? Figure out how you can incentivize someone to maybe come on your team who has what you need in order to accomplish that goal. And also just going back to the idea of writing things down. So, okay, if this t-shirt line is something I want to come up with, what are the things that I'll need to get it done? Maybe that's going to spend some time researching, trying to figure it out, but invest that time, because that's really important. I know when I initially wanted to start my clothing brand, I had absolutely no idea where to start with anything. I was just like, I don't know, I'm confused. And then I spent a lot of time just like researching, and being really frustrated, because I was like, I don't get this. Like, when am I going to have this breakthrough moment of knowing like who I want my suppliers to be, of knowing how I'm going to get this done? And then all of a sudden, because I spent so much time immersing myself in it and bringing a brand assistant on, it got to a point where I was like, oh, we can do this. This is so simple. I don't know why I was overthinking it initially, you know? Because you spend that time learning, and that's really important for anything that you end up going into.
So I think instead of telling yourself you need to learn or know the language, I think you should be the language. And the language that you are, your audience will come to you. Because I think a lot of times we're so focused on what do they want to see? You know, what can I do that makes them want to buy? No, you do what you want to do, and the right people are going to come towards you. Always, like, be the language. Don't know the language. Be the language, and that language is going to come swarming to you. Just be authentic and stick in that.
Anyone else have one more question?
Thank you.
Last one, go ahead.
What's your advice for moving forward in your career when your career has a lifespan? Like, for instance, I'm an opera singer, and I'm in New York, it's difficult to like make this dream come true. So if you can offer me advice.
That's what you just said.
I think that just what I was saying, like, be authentic, and also just have your career, you know, be the opera singer, have these brands, like I said, I work with InStyle, Essence, whoever, but at the end of the day, be your own brand. What's your name? Medium?
Yes.
Be Medium, okay? Be attached to the opera, do whatever, but be authentic in you. Just be your own brand, and there's no lifespan on that. You control the power to that. So just be your own brand, and when your own brand is good, you're always going to be good.
Yeah, definitely share your story, because when you share your story, there's 7 billion people in this world. You're not the only person going through it, so anyone else who can relate to you will come to you, and that lifespan that you thought you had it is non-existent. Exactly.
And just one final thing, going back to the idea of not being afraid to pivot.
Yeah.
And so if there are new opportunities or new ventures or possibilities because of the talent that you already possess and because of the passion you already have, don't be afraid to leap into that and try things that are new. And do it while you still have this idea of like a lifespan, right? So do it now and don't wait years down the line, because you never know. Like, you could be building a platform that can ultimately be, right, like you, your brand, after those opportunities or the opera passes.
One more thing. Think outside of the box. So think like she said, if you're feeling that way, think of how many other women are feeling that way. Start an organization for other women that feel like there's a lifespan on this opera, career for them, and help them, uplift them. Start your own opera academy. Like, there's no limits to what you can do.
And that, my friends, is the panel.
Should I sing? Ebony, everybody, Ebony.
Can we just give these ladies one more round? The biggest thing for me, although they are younger than me, younger than some of us in this room, I think you can always learn. My grandmother's in her 70s and she always says to me, you can always learn. And I know that millennials, the young people, are not afraid to make mistakes. And what we'll go through in our workbook, we're going to eat in a little bit, and then we'll kind of work on that. It's going to help us kind of create that mindset to conquer those things, because when you can't see a way forward, that is hard to move on your vision, right? And we all feel that way. Everything they said was extremely relevant for their age to pick that up, because a lot of us had to learn that after being married, after having kids, after going to college and saying, why did I go to college? So we'll definitely get into that, but definitely take note of your biggest takeaways. And you're going to have some amazing breakthroughs just even with this workbook. But I just want to thank each and every one of you for being powerhouses. Make sure you follow them. Chelsea's at Chelsea the Visionary. I've been tagging them on all of my posts. So I'm at Queens Recognize Queens, and Shakira is at Shak Empowers. But make sure when you leave this event to follow them, because your circle is who you follow online as well, right? Sometimes you can't physically start that circle. I'm thankful that my circle, I met her by traveling. I live 3 hours away from here. So Krystal is at
KW, Krystal Vega.
KW, Krystal Vega, and Chelsea is, I'm sorry.
Asia is
It's the baby, y'all. I need to eat.
It's Miss Asia Milia. There you go.
And just check out our posts. Feel free to DM me if you ever are trying to find them. But it also comes down to supporting people who are moving, getting in those rooms if you're building a brand, doing different things and thinking outside of the box. So we didn't do the workshop yet. Apologies, that was a part of it, but I'm happy that we had this discussion so that we can get into the workbook so that you guys can work on some of it here and then take it home, because really this is about 2019 and beyond.
Yeah.
Like, we can't just do the first of the year thing that everybody does. First of the year, let me work out. You know, it has to be a lot bigger than that, so that's what we want to inspire you to do. So just give these ladies one more round of applause. So what we're going to do is, we got about 5 minutes for food. I want you guys to actually, have you guys been looking through your workbook? Yes. Okay. Amazing. Do you guys have anything else that you want to say? Good to go? Can we just stand up for them and give them a round of applause one last time? Can we take one of them?
2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Gotcha. Okay. All right.
Yeah, okay.
Is that 0, 7?
I have a phone. 0, 7, 1, 2.
Let me do it on one phone first. Alright, ready? 1, 2, 3.
Oh, y'all top your hips.
Oh, you weren't doing no movement. I'm saving it. I'm saving it.
Okay, I'm together.
I'm saving it. Alright, ready? 1.
Hold on.
Alright. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Oh, that was good. That was good. That was good. That was good. We're gonna do it one more time. Because I'm gonna do it on this one.
Guys, one more.
Do it one more so I can do it on this one.
Let's try it again.
Alright, ready? 1, 2, 3.
I don't know, probably. Like a crescent moon. Hilarious.
I'll airdrop it.
Airdrop it? Okay.
Thanks, Nerd.
I'm so glad all of you, I finally got to my phone. Because I was familiar with Krystal. I met Krystal conversation with yeah, Scotty B, and I briefly introduced myself. And then for you guys, I have mutual followers. Yeah, you guys are so dope. Like,
Everybody's airdrop is on?
so dope.
Yeah, mine's Asia's iPhone. It should be Asia's.
My phone's over there, but it's okay. As long as you guys have it. You know, you guys are awesome. You guys are
Do you have it for everyone and not just your contacts? Airdrop?
my phone?
Okay, it's on everyone.
Nice. Airdrop is everything. Okay, I have Nigel, Hazel. I don't know. That's mine. Which one's yours? The Hazel one.
Maybe mine is iPhone.
Yeah, mine might be iPhone too.
Except, yeah.
Try an iPhone. I'll see if it's on. Okay, I figured it. Alright, perfect.
Ready? 1, 2,